Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 5 of Prep for Wave Week. Today is expansion day. So we are really thinking about big thoughts, big ideas to really expand on lots of the foundational elements you've heard over the past 4 days when we're thinking about just the travel business foundations, sales, operations, marketing, and the like. How can we take it a step further in our travel businesses? And I think that I personally have seen that a lot in the luxury travel group that is run by the amazing Angela Hughes. And she utilizes DMCs a bunch. And if you don't know, DMCs are destination management companies. So it's pretty much local tour operators that help you really look like a bad booty in your travel business. So without further ado, welcome back, Angela.
Hi, thanks for having me. And you always have a great show. So I'm excited to contribute to all the amazing things that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, our second annual Prep for Wave Week, and you've been on the podcast at least once now.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're doing a great job. Keep it up, you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. So for those people who might be new to your world, just a quick background of what you do within the travel industry, both as travel advisor and then as support person.
Yeah, I actually own a host agency, Trips and Ships Luxury Travel, and we have about 60 advisors. We're a small boutique premium and luxury agency, and we just cater to that type of business. I'm still an active seller, so to speak. I know that sounds like a drug seller, like I'm an active seller, but yeah, I'm an active booker. And so I'm not only managing my company, but I'm also selling. And so I'm right in the trenches all of the time, looking for the right suppliers and the right vendors that are going to make us more profitable and make our clients happier. And then, of course, I run the Luxury Travel University, which is an educational program, and my Facebook group, Luxury Travel Social Media and Marketing. So
yes, all the things. Yes. And I'm glad that you said you utilize the word seller, because there's so many different avenues now to be in the travel industry that it's important to distinguish that as a travel seller, which is what a travel advisor really does.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. And I've been selling since I was a kid. So I've seen so many different models. I've seen so many different avenues that you can sell in. I really like the destination management company space a lot. We have over 25,000 people in that group. And I'd say probably 80% of the questions are, who are the right DMCs to work with?
Right.
But I think we need to probably preface first that a destination management company is not always the right go-to for your client. You need to first like zoom in and have that discovery call and determine what's ideal for your client. It shouldn't be what makes your life easier or what your relationship is. It always should come down to the fundamental question of what's right for your client.
Right. I love that. I love it. So what would you say are fundamentally the differences between like one of the big tour operators versus a local destination management company?
Well, first of all, it's layers. A lot of our tour companies, Abercrombie and Kent, for instance, have their own DMCs on the ground. A Globus or Trafalgar is working with somebody on the ground. And so in a way, everybody's working with a destination management company. It just depends at which layer. I mean, it's somehow, some way people are working with somebody on the ground in France to arrange transfers, hotels, those types of things. And maybe they're not, where a destination management company is cutting out kind of that middleman person. You're going straight to the source. And there's some fundamental differences when it comes to paying and determining who you should be using in that arena.
So why should a travel advisor, or what are some of the reasons they would prefer to work with a DMC as opposed to one of the larger operators?
Well, I would say, first of all, if you work with a consortia or you're with a host agency, they're 99% of the time going to want you to work with whoever your preferred suppliers are. That's where you're probably going to get your best commission. It's probably going to flow the easiest. You probably have background support from your consortia and host agency. I don't want to allude to the fact that a DMC is always the right direction to go, but it can be the right direction to go. For instance, maybe in the safari business, we literally were not selling a lot of safaris until I reached out and found my own suppliers. And that was really interesting because I was finding when I quote some of the big names, and I don't want to throw them out there, but avocado, Abercrombie. You know, some of those that prices were just too high for like the normal American to do a safari. And so I spent a couple of years in Africa in terms of like going on safari, you know, safari after safari after safari, checking out providers, seeing what they're doing, white labeling my company there with them. So everything looked pretty seamless, and that probably dropped our prices 25%. Because if you think about it, like you're working directly now, you're not paying for the BDMs, you're not paying for the advertising, the marketing, the trade shows, all of that. I mean, those marketing costs eventually all just come down to, you know, the big, nice brochures. Those are amazing. Like I love to hand out one of the American suppliers brochures. I mean, that's a gorgeous turnkey piece.
Right.
But somebody's paying for that. I mean, eventually it's coming down to the customer. And if I can't close, then I'm not getting paid. And so it made sense in certain markets for me to find somebody in Egypt or in the safari world or Morocco, where I was, you know, it's great. It's great if somebody can come in and they fit perfectly on, I don't know, Alexander Roberts trip or a Backroads trip or something. It's great. Everybody loves to be able to just turn over that Globus or Trafalgar. That's easy selling. I love that. If I can do that in Europe and put somebody on a guided tour or something, I'm going to always do that first. It saves me time. I know it's going to run perfectly.
Right.
So, it really came down to like losing in the commission space where I was like, whoa, I could be now getting a price at net. Now I'm marking it up to, now I'm making the commission, not the tour operator.
Right.
And sometimes not even the consortia. And they'll hate me for saying that, but you know, we have recommended DMCs that, you know, work with Virtuoso and Travel Leaders and Internova as well, Signature. And they have to pay a percentage to belong to the consortia. And so, you know, again, that cost is being absorbed by somebody and it's your client. And it was just getting to the point where it was ridiculous. Like once we went direct, we were able to close safari after safari after safari or Egypt after Egypt. You know, now, am I using that all the time in like Europe? No, that's where you got to find out where you need it. And where you can grow and expand on that. It's not in every territory.
Right. And I really appreciate, and that's why I'm like, I surround myself with certain people who tell it like it is, and there's no fluff. It's just straight. We're going to get right to the root of things, because that is something that like throughout the years of myself being in the travel industry that I've noticed that it's really just the big box names that are out there that you see a lot. And so when you're finally into the industry for a couple years and you're hearing smaller names out there, it's like, why didn't I know about this from the beginning? And it's because the bigger players have bigger dollars, whereas the smaller companies, it's really about word of mouth marketing and a lot of relationship building within advisors.
Well, now there's some pros and cons too with that. Like, I do love like the big box.
Right. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just different.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that because in a lot of ways, there's probably more protection with that. You know, when you're working with a small vendor, you've got to make sure that they're highly vetted. Somebody has vetted those people that are under the labels that we're using at the consortiums. I mean, I'm trying to do this without throwing out names and throwing
right. No, so
like, I got to keep my job tomorrow. But
where would you say that you have found a lot of the DMCs that you work with then?
I'm sorry, ask me that again. How did I find them?
Yes. Like, was it through like other advisors, or did you do like a general Google search and just started?
A lot of them reached out to me, and then I went through my own vetting process. And then I actually went and traveled with every single one of them, because I would never recommend a DMC that I hadn't used or that I didn't feel confident with. Or that, you know, a lot of the consortias have a list of DMCs. Internova and Travel Leaders does, Virtuoso does. And so if they're already on that list and I can use them, great. Now the problem lies in who you use for a host agency, because a lot of host agencies won't wire money. And that's the problem when you use a DMC is you're buying a net. And so you're generally wiring that net rate over to them. And I'll always ask them first, like, can I pay with credit card? And then will you send me the commission back? Okay. Because credit card's always the best protection on that.
Right.
When you're wiring like $60,000 to Africa, like it can be scary.
Right.
And your agency might not wire that money. I know several host agencies who will not wire money for an advisor. And so you've got to check with your host agency to see, like, can I use a DMC? And if I can use a DMC, is it only the DMCs that's on the consortia list?
Right.
And I tell my advisors, don't go out, they'll come to me and be like, oh, Susie in this group said that, so-and-so was amazing in Seychelles. And I'm like, I don't care if they're amazing. I haven't used them. I haven't tried them. That puts me at so much liability to just go out and randomly find somebody. Right. And believe me, from my Facebook group and most advisors, all of a sudden you're getting random people from Pakistan. Everybody's asking you like, hey, do you want to get in a partnership? No, I really don't. Like once I find my people, I'm all set, So
yeah. So what would
I'm not
you
making
say?
Friends on this podcast today.
Right. Well, no. And I think like, that's just the reality that everybody needs to be aware about, that you need to do your own due diligence. So can you just let us in a little bit of like when a new supplier, a new DMC comes to you, or you find out about a new DMC, what's your own vetting process? Like what are some things that are like green flags, or what are some things that might be red flags?
Yeah, I'd say the first thing is communication.
Okay.
I won't work with any company that doesn't automatically just get back with me pronto.
Okay.
Now, we saw a lot this year that people were really backlogged in the Italian market and the French market, and most of the European markets, and just couldn't get quotes out. That's different. Okay. Like we've got one going right now. One of my agents just hit me and she said a really big brand name in New Zealand is not, taking any clients. I mean, that's one thing. You're at least getting communication back. Okay.
Right.
But the thing that just drives me crazy is I can't wait 3 or 4 weeks for a quote.
Right.
And I'm not joking when I say I hit 3 DMCs for an Ireland, Scotland trip probably 5 months ago, and I just heard back from one. And they're like, hey, we're finally doing 2023. And I said, sorry, I've already booked that direct. I've already found my own drivers. Like if that's and that's a really well-known brand that you see at a lot of the big shows in luxury and everything. And I was like, that's really depressing because I know you're busy, but if you're that busy, maybe we need to bring on more people. Like if they're understaffed, that's a red flag for me.
Yes.
If they're slow responders. Now, again, in response, it could be like, hey, we're working on it. But if I'm begging, that makes me nervous.
Right. Agreed.
And then second of all, what's the procedure of processing the money? What's the format that they're delivering the quote in? I'm trying to convince and have done a good job of helping our DMCs to move into a format that's turnkey for me, meaning I don't have to put it into Travify, because then I got to pay somebody to put it in Travify, and I could do it myself, but I use assistants, as everybody knows. Right. I've got to pay an assistant to put it into Travify. Like I want to be able to turnkey it out. Like my African supplier just sent over a program that he's now using because we had an issue where we didn't match up on one thing. I had put, we had a hotel, something went wrong in the Travify. Okay. The client printed it off and it wasn't what we sold. And I just said, we can't ever have this again on these price points. And that was clearly just a glitch on my end, but he also had a glitch on his end where he mixed up 2 hotels. And, I feel like when you're working with something that's not prepackaged, when someone delivers a Globus, you know exactly what's in it. With a DMC, it's custom. So you need to make sure. Now I'll always send over my Travify, if we built a Travify, back to the DMC and say, check every single one of these. Does this look right? And time and time again, I'll always find a mistake, either because the problem is too, you're working in language barriers.
Yes.
And that can be tricky too,
Yes. What has been one of the best things that has come about from a relationship with a DMC?
Probably the personalization that they give my clients and also me. Like I've had just some of the most incredible experiences of my life working with them. It's a relationship. This is a relationship business. And that's what I want to stress for your Wave Week, for our whole Wave world, is like, this is a relationship. It's not a transaction. You're not selling a product. You're developing a relationship with your client. You're developing a relationship with a vendor. And if you're jumping all over the map, and here's what drives me crazy, like reaching out to 3 DMCs for a quote. DMCs talk among themselves, and they talk with the hotels. Everybody knows that you've somewhere along the line, the loyalty hasn't been there. I'll always use the method of saying to a DMC, just for complete transparency, I want you to know this has gone out to one other DMC. And if you do not have the bandwidth to work on this and get a quote back to me in the next week, I will be happy to use you in the future, but I am going to take this elsewhere.
I love that.
Yeah. So, and that didn't even answer your question. That's where I'm like just a train wreck.
I know. It's like everything is bananas this fall.
Yeah. But, so I think the best thing is relationships, good friends all around the world, good, amazing experiences. So
now, did you always start out working with DMCs, or because I know it was a family run business, your parents owned it prior to you? What kind of like made that evolve into being like a critical part of your business now?
It was probably a lot of my personal travel because I don't know, I've always been a big FIT girl. I've been a land girl, and so for me, it was just a natural progression. I don't think 5 years ago we really used the term DMC. Like, I didn't hear that term a lot.
What was the word used? Just supplier?
Just supplier. Now it's like DMC is like almost a household word in travel, but really I don't recall 5 years ago us using that. We'd use a supplier abroad or something. And, we were using those for like our Egypt and Israel for certain destinations, even back then, just to get a better price point. And it probably came word of mouth then.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it now it's evolved a lot into where we have certain places we're always DMC bound. And I'm even recommending that they join Internova or Virtuoso, because to have them in with my consortia is a double win for me, because then I have the backing of the consortia as well.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. And that will impact you as well. I've actually submitted a whole list of people.
Yay!
Because you're with Nexion. So
that, and I have known the word or the term DMC. So my degree is in hospitality management, my bachelor's degree. And so we used that word, was widely used, but it was more for like if you have an event going to a location.
Yes. And that's where I think like if you were in the MICE and the meetings, incentives, the corporate space.
Right.
And doing a meeting for 400, you were always looking for a destination management company to do that. So let me circle back. If you've been in the hospitality world, yes, that's been around for a decade and a half. I think for advisors, it hasn't so much. Yeah.
So how, kind of like going on to expansion in today's expansion day, how has using DMCs expanded your business?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's doubled my commission in so many ways. Like if I can make 20% now on an Africa trip and still be $30,000 cheaper than, one of the brand names, I mean, that's expansion, and it's opened us up into so many different areas that we probably weren't selling. So on a regular basis, like we're doing a lot of South Africa, but not so much Tanzania or Uganda. We've really expanded there into the Morocco business. We've always had a lot of Egypt business, so that's been good. I think even now, like Croatia, I just came from there, and I actually did, I work as an influencer for brands as well. And so I actually did an influencer job for a brand there, and that was really great. And now today I'm wiring them money because we've already had an agent use that company. And so that's expansion.
Yes. There's so many.
We've run multiple yacht charters in Croatia because we used a DMC that actually came through Travel Leaders, and we probably weren't doing yacht charters as much,
Okay, because that's a whole other thing. And I think like that's
a whole other session.
Right. Those are the things that you just cannot learn. They don't talk about those types of things at even like the big conferences or the big trade shows. You have to go into more niche realm is what I have been finding. And that's part of, I guess, one of my missions is that I just feel like there needs to be more communication on these different routes to make you fully and wholly aware of what's possible within the industry. Because
Yeah.
even yacht charters and being able to use a DMC to do a yacht charter or to partner with them or to find information from them. It's
Yeah.
I feel like more than just one trip.
Yeah, and villas in Greece, you know, that's another thing, like villas abroad. That's a whole market in itself. I mean, the yacht charter piece is really, most people don't know how to run that. There's so many moving pieces to that you need to understand. Those are real education things that need to be touched on in you know, travel education for sure.
Right.
So.
Right. Would you say that using a DMC might also be beneficial for cruise business at all?
No. I mean, I would never, like, that was a question somebody just asked in my group today. Like,
okay,
oh, I'm doing a cruise. Is there a DMC? And I'm like, no, I would always go directly to the cruise line for that and work with a business development manager.
okay.
Where you might use a DMC is on the pre and post.
Yes, correct.
If you have larger pieces, if you're running a group, then that's a perfect spot to like dive into that.
That's what I was thinking. Are there any destinations that you're trying to break into or build relationships right now? I'm like, what can you tell us?
7,000 requests.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm always looking for the exotics. Like, I'm not lying. Like, I'm headed to Indonesia and Singapore when this airs. I will be over there. And I'm very familiar with both of those destinations, but I'm going to a luxury show in Indonesia to try to build our business in Southeast Asia. Okay. We've always been strong in Thailand and Cambodia and in Japan, but we're missing fundamental pieces in Indonesia and probably Philippines and Vietnam, where I feel like the market's really emerging right now. So.
Okay. Is this something that you're seeing a desire or a drive from your clients, or is this just an opportunity that you're seeing in the future for your business?
I think people want more exotic destinations. So it's a small percentage of people, but I drive a lot of the traffic. If I'm there and I recommend it, I drive. You've got to be steering your clients of where it's hot, not them asking you. If they're asking you now, it's not hot.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, you know.
Right.
Well, now it's mainstream. You know, they saw it, their friends went there, whatever. You know, you've got to be an influencer. You've got to be paving the way of what's cool out there. And I'm out there constantly doing destinations. And I lived in Asia for a couple of years, so I'm very versed in Asia, but like I was missing the Vietnam piece, like, and I'm just itching to get Vietnam. I feel like Vietnam's it's going to come on in the next 3-4 years. And I want to be prepped and ready and have suppliers there. And we were working on that pre-COVID. And again, with the whole COVID situation, I think it's really important that you go back and vet who you're using, you're meeting with suppliers. You know, I think Sri Lanka has tons of potential, as well as all the safari markets.
Okay. So why are you feeling this way? Like, are you seeing trends emerge? Is it just an instinctual feeling that you follow? What's going on?
I'll not give out all my secrets, but I think it's instinct.
Okay. All right. I like that. No, but I think it's instinct.
I mean, people, you know, people, obviously I'm an ex-college professor, so I have a lot of trends and data in my mind. You know, I'm a data girl. But I think the data suggests that we've worn out a lot of destinations. And people are always looking for uncharted paths with less tourism footprint in them. And so I just feel like some of those places are going to be it, you know? Yes.
Yeah.
And then I look at somebody like I'm, you know, probably 10 or 11 countries away from 100. What is someone who's super well traveled wanting? Right. You know, they want something different. Right. And I look at what do I want, you know?
Right. Would you say that is somewhat in relation to what has happened the past couple of years, or it's just the natural path of things that?
I think it's a natural path. I think it was emerging before. The problem is pre-COVID, we had so many issues with tourism footprint that we had millions of people spawned on by the Instagram and the millennial and the Gen X. I just, before I got on here, did an interview for a magazine about Gen X travel and luxury travel. And we were talking how fueled Instagram has, you know, Instagram's fueled this like travel desire in people. And now you've got, I mean, here I am in Portofino this summer, and there's, you know, 4 girls like all like, ah, you know, and just like standing there. And I'm like, you're
Yes.
Miss Portofino, put your phone down, you know, and they don't care about Portofino. They just cared about getting the shot. But we have millions of people that just want to hang off a cliff and smile and be there, that they've almost ruined the real experience for people. You know, everywhere is so crowded now. And it's returned to that too. I mean, we're going full speed into like, we had an over tourism population in so many destinations: Croatia, Venice, Barcelona, Peru, you know, up at Machu Picchu, in so many destinations that people were miserable. And now, you know, so 2018, 2019, they were looking for hideaways like the Seychelles or the Maldives, something where you're not there with 200,000 of your closest friends.
Right.
So
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of like one of just a trend in general, especially after the past 2 years. But I appreciate that insight that it was happening before then. It's just like,
oh, it was so heavy beforehand. There really needed it. Like I actually, and I lectured as a professor in 2020 during COVID. I actually gave several lectures on that. I was like, it's almost like it gave the world a break that we needed. You know, now Bar Harbor's voting this week on whether or not they're going to let cruise ships come in. Venice has locked out cruise ships. Key West is considering Cayman. No, and that's a good thing, because there's two things happening. You've got economics coming into the region, but you also have environmental and sustainability issues, and it's a delicate balance. You need tourism to feed people, but you also don't want to destroy everything that made it wonderful to begin with. So
exactly. I think that is a beautiful note to end on as well. So thank you for being here, Angela. How can people stay connected with you? I know you also do consultations every now and then if they wanted to speak with you directly.
Yeah, so I do run private consulting through the luxurytraveluniversity.com, my website. And then you can find me in my Facebook group, Luxury Travel Social Media and Marketing for Travel Professionals. Awesome. And then I get to pop in and see you on occasion because we both live in the same town. Yay! So that's great.
And I love it. I love being able to see you at local events. So hopefully another one soon. Yeah. Fingers crossed. Well, thank you everyone for tuning into this session. I hope you have gotten a chock full of information like I know I have myself. If you have purchased the Study Hall Pass upgrade, I will see you between 3 and 4 p.m. Eastern. And reminder, there are 2 other sessions today. So if you haven't checked in on those, go ahead and do that now. Thanks for joining us. See you later.